Today in the Canning Kitchen, we'll be making crushed tomatoes. Today's recipe calls for 2 3/4 pounds of tomatoes per quart. We'll need an acid added directly to each quart jar, either in the form of a half a teaspoon of citric acid, or 2 tablespoons of a bottled lemon juice, or 4 tablespoons of a vinegar with 5% acidity. Any dried seasonings can be added directly to each jar if desired. Since our recipe calls for 2 3/4 pounds of tomatoes per quart jar, and I have roughly 12 pounds here, I'll need about 4 quarts. I'm going to go ahead and get them into my water bath canner to start warming. To start, I'm going to need to get all of my tomatoes into boiling water for roughly 30 to 60 seconds so that I can peel them. Once my tomatoes have been boiling, the skin should slip right off, so I'm going to peel all of my tomatoes and set them aside in another pot. I'm going to continue this process with all of my tomatoes until they're all peeled. Now that my tomatoes are peeled, I need to take 1/6 or about 2 pounds of my tomatoes and core them and then quarter them and place them in my pot. Once I get all 2 pounds in my pot, I'm going to mash them with a potato or meat masher to extract all the juices. I will then stir the tomatoes until boiling. In the meantime, I will prepare the remainder of my tomatoes by removing the core and quartering them. Once the tomatoes that are in the pot are boiling, I can add in the remainder of my tomatoes and bring to a boil for about 5 minutes. Now that my 5-minute timer is up, I can go ahead and turn off my burner and carefully remove 1 jar from my canner. I opted to use a citric acid today, so I will need a half teaspoon of citric acid per quart jar. If I want to add any dry seasonings, I can do that right now directly to each jar. Now using my funnel and ladle, I'm going to carefully get my crushed tomato mixture into each jar, making sure that I leave a 1/2 inch headspace. my jar full, I'm going to go ahead and wipe the rim of the glass. Double check that I have a 1/2 inch headspace. Then lay on my flat lid and ring and finger tighten the jar. Once tight, I'm going to go ahead and carefully put it back into the water bath canner and continue filling the rest of my jars. Now with everything in the canner, I'm going to go ahead and wait for it to come to a boil. With the water bath not boiling, I'm going to go ahead and set a timer for 45 minutes. Now that my timer is up, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the burner and remove my canner lid. I will then start a 5-minute cool down timer. Now that my 5-minute cool down is complete, I can go ahead and carefully remove the jars from my water bath canner. I will let them sit for 12 to 24 hours before I test for a seal. If they are good, I'll go ahead and remove the rings, wash each jar, and then they are ready to be stored.